Welcome back to the Nullified Tech channel here on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge World Championship. That's right, it's finale week, and Kahuna and I are very lucky to be joined by a finalist of the Challenge World Championship. Troy, how you doing?
G'day, yeah, good, thanks. How you guys doing?
Yeah, good. It's been a whole week since actually, it hasn't even been a week, Kahuna, since I last spoke to you, but how's things on your end?
Yeah, doing really good, man. Like, feeling recovered, feeling well. I had that rest last week from the challenge, which I am absolutely devastated. I miss having, a great episode there, Chris, and lots of fun and entertaining activity in the chat, including Troy himself, and he thought he'd come back on. So I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad.
Yeah, Danny there too. That was impressive.
We had you and Danny communicate on the live with each other, which was really cool to see. We've since then I've reached out to Danny. I've spoken to him, and he has said that he wants to come and talk at some point. I believe he's going to be on Reality Realness with 3S's Chantal's channel to do a deep dive with her one-on-one, and then possibly he'll also talk to myself and Drew in a combined interview. So I still need to talk to Drew about that. But guess what? I am heading to Tampa next week, so I'll be in Drew's neck of the woods. Who knows? We might be able to get our dots and I's crossed, and we can get this interview done with Danny as well, which I'm really excited to talk about this finale with him and the season as a whole. And then obviously, Troy, we've had you on before, but now that the season is over, everything goes. You can speak freely about everything this season.
Yeah, I guess so. I was probably speaking a bit more freely than other people anyway, but yeah, I'll be able to speak freely about this season. But it was a good season in all. I think, we had a blast. I think the great thing is I feel like I made a lot of friends out of it, but I would have liked that money, unfortunately. It wasn't meant to be, but it is what it is.
I feel like your edit heading into the end, like when we spoke to you the first time you were on, we barely saw you in the edit up until that point because they had so many other people they had to focus on the episodes. You were quite vocal to say the episodes are quite short. Maybe if it was an hour-long, 60-minute runtime, you would have had more airtime. But that kind of shifted towards the end when yourself and Casey became a team. You got thrown in many a times to, go into the arena to fight for your spot in the game. And then towards the end of this, I really felt like they were giving you a lot more airtime and showing a lot more of what you're capable of. Do you feel a little bit vindicated now as well? I mean, since when we first spoken till now, at least they sort of ramped it up a little bit towards the end, right?
Yeah, I do feel a bit more vindicated. Like, it's like I said, if you don't get a chance to show your character, they're not going to. Like, I feel really bad. I feel bad for Theo this season because I feel like he hasn't had the edit he deserves, like the amount of humour and fun he brought into the house. And he did have a bit of a story arc with Kaz that they chose not to show. And it just goes to show that even some of the legends of the game sometimes just don't get edited in, especially if, you've only got 45 minutes to do it and you're not writing a direct line of why things happen and all that. And I was really fortunate. I'm done with this. I was really fortunate to be in elimination. So I sort of brought my character out a bit more and got me a bit more airtime, I guess, and got the audience to show who I am.
Well, both you and Casey, and I'm going to definitely say hello to everybody in the live pretty soon because we've got so many people already commenting. They're excited to see you on the live here with us, Troy. And I think there's like maybe 10% of excitement to see me and Kahuna, but 90% excitement to have you with us here on the live today. But, another person who I really feel like benefited a lot from this season, and I feel like her stocks has risen so much in fans' eyes, is Casey, your partner. Like, because we've never seen Casey sweat before. We've never seen her in trouble in any of the previous challenges, which is an indication of how good of a game player she is. She hardly ever gets herself in trouble. But this season was very different. And it was really cool to see how she came to play. And she had that same Aussie battler spirit that you had out there in the arena. What was it like playing with her, especially now that you've gone to battle so many times in the arena with her and you did a finale with her?
Yeah, I love playing with Casey. Like, obviously, I enjoyed my time with Amber too. But with Casey, I felt like it was different. I felt like with Amber, for me, it was like we connected really emotionally and we liked to do the right thing and stand up for the little people and that sort of thing. But then with Casey, it was like, the same as my competitive side. So it's like when I was competing with her, I just felt like we're on the same wavelength. We both wanted to get the job done. We weren't salty at people for putting us in, although we did eventually get a bit salty when we kept getting chucked in. But, we're just there and we're just trying to get the job done. I feel like, we just really connected, especially in the sand, like when we were competing, and even in our final, we were just on the same wavelength, which is really good.
Yeah. Let's say hello to a few people here, Kahuna, in the live tonight as well. Angel Cake, welcome to the live stream. Always good to have you here, my friend. Also, Chris saying, oh my God, it's Drew of the Angel Cake Entertainment channel. Fangirling out there, Chris, are you? Clip and Claus is saying, hello, everyone. Also saying, hashtag King Troy. And Dolores is here. Saying, hi, take your time, just got home, movie, so this is good to see everybody. Thana saying, Angel Cake, forget to tell you the Challenge Fandom podcast gave you a shout out. That's awesome. It's awesome that Angel Cake got that shout out as well. Who else do we have here? We've got Danica in the live as well, saying, Kahuna, nice to see you all. I'm so glad everyone is reaching out to be on the show. Well, not everyone, but we're working our way up there. Troy's been an absolute champ and has been talking to us throughout the whole season. I finally had a bit of contact with Danny as well, so I'm sure more people will follow. I do think a big part of this, and this is something that you could probably let us in on, Troy, is I think like the challenges that have been on the show for quite a long time, they're kind of in a clique. So they'll do the official challenge podcast. They'll talk on that podcast, but they do sometimes shy away from fan-made podcasts. This is the feeling I get because of some of the crazy opinions that are out there, because challenge fans are very fanatic. Like, they either love you or they hate you. So I feel like challengers probably don't know what to expect if they were to go into a podcast that is run by fans.
Yeah, I got no idea, to be honest. I just like getting involved, though, to be honest. So, as a fan myself, I want to give back as much as possible. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's what they feel, but I can't speak for them. I know that Sarah did come out on a Cullen with Dylan's podcast and did say she doesn't like associating herself with some of the other ones, which I guess is fair enough because some of them are giving her a hard time. But, yeah, I guess that's something that people might feel. But
yeah. I feel like that is, that's a fair thing to feel. Like if I was a competitor out there, Kuna, I was putting my blood, sweat, and tears into a season, trying to compete, trying to get some money to take back home. And I had people begging me the whole season. I don't know. Like, actually, to be honest, the kind of person that I am, I probably would go out there just to stand my ground and let them know about the things they didn't see. But everybody reacts differently to it, right, Kuna?
I mean, as a fan and, podcaster, content creator around the challenge, I like to think it's because they're intimidated by us and not the fact that they're on a TV show and don't really care about people that do a random YouTube channel. So maybe it's, I don't know which one it could be. There's that they're more than happy to go on Bananas podcast and other colleagues and people have been on it, but maybe some, the nullified take in a couple of years will be big enough to get all of them on, especially because of people like Troy.
Yeah, 100%. Troy, we are so grateful for the fact that you're, like you said, you're a fan yourself. You're wanting to come on here. You're wanting to talk about the final. And I think this is a great opportunity to start talking about the final a little bit here. But I do want to go to Kahuna before I come to you, Troy. And I want to ask you, how did you feel as a fan watching this final? Where would this rate for you based on some of the other finals that we've seen over the years? Do you think that it lived up to the expectations of what we have for a final when it comes to being a viewer of the show?
I don't know. I'm a bit mixed on this final, to be honest with you, because I know that it looked brutal, but there was a few things that I was like what? My big thing was the Fear Express. I didn't get it. I was like, why is he dressed like like cosplaying here?
But TJ does that every season, though. He does it every season.
I know. I love it. I love it when he does it when
Yeah.
it fits in theme. Spies, Lies, and Allies. We got the jumpsuit like he's on Top Gun and all that sort of thing. But like with the
Argentina.
World Championship,
I think it was All Stars 1. Where was that All Stars 1? What country was it in again? I forgot. But he had like the poncho and the hat, riding on the horse. Like he's always like cosplaying and dressing up for the occasion. So I feel like it's a very strict criticism to have of this final, to be honest.
It is, and it's my own personal thing. I understand that, but
Yeah.
when I saw the World Championship, they've got countries from all over the world. The branding, the badge looks like a proper sports logo, and for the longest time, I've had the challenge is America's 5th major sport, and they're doing it seriously. They're getting genuine competitors in there. They got a Ninja Warrior. They got NFL players. They've got people really trying to compete. And then they do like the whole themed cosplay, Fear Express. Oh, so scary! Like
I liked it.
I like it when I like it when it matches. I didn't see the fit there. I didn't see the fit.
Well, Chris is saying here in the comments, I like the train conductor suit. Simmer down, Kahuna. Angel Cake is saying, unpopular opinion. I like the train, although I felt they didn't use it to its full potential as the Fear Express. I would agree with that, Angel Cake. Like, I expected more from it, but I do think this was TJ's way of playing mind games with the finalists because they didn't know what to expect. They didn't know if they could relax, sleep, if they had to stay awake, like what was going on. So, Troy, as the person who was out there, you know, you're in South Africa, of all places, in the middle of the night in an abandoned train station waiting for this train to come, and you realize that it's the Fear Express. What was your thoughts and the thoughts of some of the other finalists when you heard what the theme was going to be of this finale?
Yeah, I remember waiting at the station. They're like, "Oh, just wait here, and you got your tickets." And I got for the Theo Express. Honestly, I was shitting bricks. I was like, "What are we about to be subject to?" And I remember as the train drove past, we're all trying to like look in through the windows, and we actually see the little bit of the medical area, and we're like, "Oh no! Like, what are we going to have to do in there?" Like, we felt like every night we're going to be subject to almost torture, I guess. Yeah, so that's how we felt as a collective. And then when we got in there the first night and were surprised that we were able to sleep, I was very happy. But I also felt like it was a double-edged sword and we're going to get woken up in the middle of the night. So personally, I was paranoid as all hell. Like, so paranoid.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what he tried to do. He didn't want you to be comfortable. Now, obviously, there were people from the main show that just did a 100-hour finale coming into this thing. So I'm sure there was talk about like, listen, this thing could go on for 100 hours. It might not be a 1-day, 2-day thing. They could drag it out. It's World Championship, so they're going to do something massive for this specific finale. But overall, it just ends up with you falling asleep, I guess. How did you have like a full night's sleep on that first night going in? Because obviously we know things are going to go downhill very quickly as soon as the finale starts the next day. And for both yourself and Casey, you guys were coming in with a handicap, having competed down in the sand.
Yeah, but I had that same handicap on the Challenge Australia, so I was running in thinking it was my good luck charm, to be honest. I was like, "Oh, you beauty, we've just done elimination, straight into the final. This is going to be great." But no, we only got about 5 to 6 hours sleep on that train. Like, I think we would have ended up going to bed at, I don't know what time, maybe 1 a.m. and we're up at like 7 a.m. for the first segment. So yeah, it wasn't a great amount of sleep, and it wasn't the best sleep ever. Like, I'm very blessed, so I can sleep anywhere and everywhere. So I'm sure I got a good night's sleep, but I'm not sure everyone else did.
Yeah. I want to read a couple of the comments here coming in. Amaya saying the final in terms of content was not hard from what we saw. Very easy puzzles and stuff. The eating probably was the hardest part. The heat, though, I'm sure was killing. And also, I will point this out, Amaya. I think that running and the cycling, you never fully understand how much energy and effort it takes to move. And if there was like, a lot of altitude or like, hills and things for you guys to run up, that's the stuff that does not translate well to the TV screen, right, Troy? Because I remember at one point seeing that first section that we had to do the 4 different puzzles or whatever you had to do, that was like 28 kilometers for you guys to run, which is not a short distance at all.
Yeah, so 16 miles. No, it was massive, but it was funny watching that because I actually took some of the clips from what the segment we did before that they didn't show. We had like this whole segment before that, but that's another story. But yeah, it was like this 4-mile loop. So it was like uphill the entire way one way, maybe about 400 metres elevation gain, and then by the time you got to the top, that was sort of your turnaround point, and you'd run all the way back down, and you're sort of on a steady decline on the way back. So it was not flat running at all. And the paths were like rocky and big. You had to watch your step everywhere, and obviously Theo unfortunately didn't, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, so you really had to watch your step, that's for sure.
We'll come back to you mentioning that there was a section before this. You brought up Theo, so I want to go over to you, Kahuna. You know, as a fan, we were all so excited to see Theo finally come back and do the challenge. Like we're all big Theo fans, and we know, you know, what he can bring to the show from a personality standpoint, from a competitor standpoint. How disappointed were you to see him go out in such a manner here in the finale? And do you think that, you know, Theo would have been up there with the leading pack if this didn't happen? Because it happened so early on. And what was your thoughts about Sarah as a whole? Because I feel like, you know, people came into this season on Sarah's back because she had this rivalry with Angela, and people were like very against her combative nature in the Challenge USA, where I've always been a stan of, you know, Sarah. She's part of the Cops Are Us alliance from Survivor, so I've been a day one fan. But how do you feel like, you know, Theo's legacy sits within the game after rolling his ankle, the disappointment, and Sarah, how she handled this finale running it with him?
Yeah, I'm a big Theo fan. I love Theo in his first season. I thought he has the total package and potential to be one of the greats of the game. And I think I've always been a bit disappointed that he's been so hard done by to push so far in that first crazy final, come second to Turbo, and then have the eye thing take him out for a few seasons. And now he finally gets his chance back on, and he rolls an ankle while looking backwards. It's disappointing. Theo has all the physical athletic gifts. He's funny, he's charming. He could be one of the mainstays for the flagship going forward. They could like make him one of those dudes, like a Bananas, a Jordan, a West kind of character. And it's a shame. I hope that like his reduced edit is not going to be a sign that he's not coming back anytime soon, because he's a great guy. Sarah is obviously ultra competitive. I don't have a problem with her like other people do. I like seeing that from women that can push far and push their limits and know what they want and go after it. But in this final, like even with Theo rolling his ankle, Sarah was still behind. Like of the 4 teams, she was also behind Theo, like most of the time when he's walking on one foot. And I felt like she was a little bit too, like maybe this is too much criticism, especially when, you know, I'm sitting here in my office weighing 200 plus kilos and I'm like, she's lagging behind. Like, it's so ridiculous. But I felt like she was very, very vocal about, unlike like last season, we saw Jordan and Anissa roll her ankle and Jordan become the asshole that he can be. This time we see Theo roll his ankle, and Sarah's like, "It's okay, man. If you want to quit, you can quit anytime." Like, I felt she was a little bit too like okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and I thought some people might think that based on the edit, but I will say this: I do know that she's done some ultra marathons and some Ironman type of stuff. Like she can run. Like, I don't think there's a doubt that she could have finished this whole thing. For me personally, knowing sort of her background and what she's done before, I do feel like she was more concerned about Theo's, you know, health and him not pushing himself. If they were never going to win it because they were that far behind, why injure yourself in a way where it's going to potentially hurt your chances of coming back in the future or having to go through rehab or something like that? That's what I got. And maybe that's just me being the bias Sarah defender here. But Troy, we're going to come to you. You ran this final with both of them. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Look, I think Sarah is a beast and she had a lot more to give. And I think she was being a bit kind to Theo letting him go. I think Theo was probably stuck. They probably were going to come last. They were probably looking at that, weighing that up. But I know Sarah leading into it, and the reason you might have seen her lagging behind is she was sick as. So she was already sick. I'm telling you right now, she was not right. It looked like whatever we had in the house that she might have got leading into that final.
Wow.
Because she looked a bit exhausted, a bit down in energy. And, you know, I'm sure it's something she might not say publicly because she might see it as an excuse or whatever. You know, she might not want to put it out there, but I reckon she was struggling with a sickness or something before that. That's
Yeah,
my
and that explains it, because I think Kahuna picked up on the fact that she was lagging behind a bit, and knowing what she's capable of, it was surprising to see her not do better and keep up with Theo. But ultimately, I do agree here with Amaya, where she says, "I love Sarah. I don't care. People dislike her for weird reasons." Yeah, sometimes people get weird about these things. Yeah, they get very tribal about who they like. Like maybe Sarah goes up against their favorites; they don't like it. But I do feel like this really showed us, this season showed us a very human side of Sarah, caring about Ben when he got sick and he was going out, even though they were going against each other, they were sort of clashing a bit. And then also seeing the fact that she here cared about Theo, and even to the point where you could see her being quite emotional at the end, saying that you didn't let me down, when Theo felt like he let her down. And Troy, you in this finale came across as the ultimate partner, because Casey was struggling as well. And a big part of this finale, the way it looked to us, the audience, was you were carrying the team on your back, and this is not taking away from Casey, because
Literally.
clearly she had to keep up with you. Yeah, literally and figuratively out there. She had to keep up with you. She did do that. She got to the finish line. How difficult is it? Because Casey on a good day would have kept up with you, but she came in not 100% after that elimination. And how difficult is it to balance and to know when to push and when to encourage, and sort of how much you can get out of your partner? Because I feel like that's a skill set that not many people have.
Yeah, that was the biggest struggle I had with the final, to be honest. I felt like you watched Jordan pushing Kaz, and that's what Kaz needed, and he was doing the right amount of push and pull. And I tried to push Casey a little bit, but I'm telling you, I could tell in her face and her eyes and her demeanour, she was off. I think she ended up having something called lactic acidosis, which is like a build-up of lactic acid, and the screens didn't really show how much she was battling for me out there. Like, I reckon if I wasn't there, she probably would have left the game, and that's no, discredit to her. That's just how much pain she was actually in, and I felt like I was able to push her and get around her enough that, I was a bit of a support for her, so that she didn't actually quit the game. Because I felt like she could have quit the game at any point, and she was thinking about it the whole time, and I was just trying to keep her upbeat and be like, "Hey, look," and that was by the time Jordan and Paz had sort of run off ahead, and she was really struggling. I actually had to pick her up at points. I was like, "Casey, I get that you're struggling, and I just really want to finish this final. I know we might be for nothing, but it's just something I want to finish TJ's final. I wanted to win, but my dream of that was slowly slipping away, and I tried to push a little bit like Jordan, but not too hard, but a little bit push. And I could just see that was going to get me nowhere, so I then had to change, the way I looked at the final, which was sad to me. I just look at it as okay, well, now I'm battling just to finish and get her across the line. And the whole time I was just talking to her then, Casey, you're going to be so proud of yourself if you push through this and get it done together. It's going to be next level cool. And I don't think you guys saw, how badly, she was struggling. Her fingers were, cramping from using the sticks, which we collected and got for her because she literally couldn't walk without them. And her arms were cramping from, holding on to me. It was actually insane. Her body was literally just shutting down on her. And I had to try and finish it with her. It was pretty full on. And
the respect that I have for Casey, like I said, this season she's really proven herself in so many levels. The respect I have for her to continue to push with you. Chris here is saying that you were a great partner. And admin Aerotex, welcome to the live for the first time, says, "Hi Troy, loved you on the show." I also just want to say, I agree with Danica. I'm glad she crossed the finish line for you, and just the fact that she pushed through to do that, she was a basic character.
Absolutely, and that's what I mean. Unfortunately, I don't think it came off as the edit because she wasn't right. You could even see in that morning. I knew she wasn't right the day before, but I didn't know how bad it was. And I thought, we've had a feed. I know she didn't have a sleep. So I'm like, maybe she's come back. And then in that morning, she literally almost starts breaking down next to me. And it was at that point I sort of started to realise, whoa, something's really wrong with Casey. And I know she's a beast, and she gets a lot of flack online for apparently not being this endurance queen. But I think you can't say that after this season or after this final, because she wasn't herself, and she still finished. Like, she was, like, I'm surprised she didn't finish. Like, yeah, for me, that was incredible. And for her to do it for me, I'm just so grateful, for her to push past and get it done, I guess. For it.
No, massive respect for Casey for doing that. I also wanted to read this comment here by Deanna. She said that Danny said on the Challenge Mania podcast that Sarah was really sick, stopping every 10 minutes to go to the bathroom, and she was being questioned for being medically able to continue from the start of the first day. So she was a bit of a question mark. And then obviously seeing Casey, like Angel Cake here says, in so much pain, and Troy carrying her at one point proved that both are fighters with them crossing the finish line. I had to think about it, like Troy, and you can let us in on the secret behind the editing here. How far did you actually carry her when she got on your back? Because I was like, maybe the cameras was there for a little bit. They got the shot. But surely, I mean, it's not that I don't doubt you can do it. But I mean, this is in the second day. You've run for a lot. Like, how effective was that strategy, really?
So that hill, mind you, was like this. So it was pretty effective, actually, because Casey initially didn't want me to pick her up. She was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm like, please, Casey, can we please just, I get it. Can you please just put your pride away for a little bit? I've got so much more to give. Can you let me pick you up? And eventually she was like, okay, I'll let you, pick me up. So I was very grateful for her to, let me do that for one, so I could at least compete to the best of my ability. And I just said to her, because she was worried that she was going to be too heavy. I'm like, okay, that's fine. If you think you're going to be too heavy, that's for me to decide. Just let me pick you up, carry you for a bit. And if I'm struggling, I'll put you down. We can walk for a bit. I'll pick you up again, carry you till I can't, put you down. I'll walk for a bit. So we did that like maybe 10 to 20 times. Like, we did that a lot. I reckon I probably would have carried her between 800 meters and a kilometer up this hill, just in a 100-meter spurt. Like, so yeah, it's a long way up the hill. And the other thing, so we carried her a long way up this hill. And that was just to get to these flags. And I kept trying to spot little flags for her to have little goals. I'm like, oh, there, the flags are up there. And we're thinking it was going to finish at that puzzle station. So I was like, oh, just get to that puzzle station. There's flags. TJ could be there. You never know. And I think once she heard that, she sort of, I didn't need to really pick her up after that because we could sort of see. But she was constantly having her arm around me, and I was just trying to help her up. But it was funny. It was like a mental battle for me and for her, and as well as a physical one. But yeah, I did carry her a fair way. But
sorry for questioning you on that. My mind when I saw it, I was like, if I was there, I'm sure I could have only carried it for like 50 meters or 100 meters, and I would have been like, no more, because that would have been difficult.
Well, that's sort of what we did. I'll sort of carry her for 100 meters, put her down for 100. Carry her for 100, put her down for 100. And it was just sort of our way of, because my thing was, while I'm carrying you, you just rest and try and get enough energy that you can then be put down and then walk a little bit more. And because at that stage we had the medical van following us too, so they were worried that Casey was going to pull out any second. And it was sort of like that point was make or break. It was like either we can do it and it's going to take us ages, but we're going to get it done, or we're going to have to pull out. And I just wanted to make sure it was the first option that we could get through the final.
Yeah. I want to read a couple more comments that's coming in here. So Clip and Claus here says, Troy made me enjoy Casey this season. He was an incredible partner, and I saw a new side away from Nani and Fessy. Totally agree with you, Clip and Claus. Asia saying, yay, Troy, you did amazing. I hope to see you on the main show. So you've got some support there for the main show. I can't help but think, Troy, watching you, and I'm not just saying it because you've been friendly to the podcast, to the show, to the fans, but I'm sure everybody else would agree in the live here that you were bloody impressive this finale. Like, I mean, you like having a partner that was breaking down, having to keep that person calm, having to pretty much, because I'm sure when she's breaking down, she's in no mental state to really help you with the puzzles, help you with some of the checkpoints at times.
But that was sort of part of our strategy too, because I knew that you just had to use that whole time to recover. So we got down, but literally, I was like, Casey, don't worry about it. Even if this takes me half an hour, you just rest. Just rest, chill out, stretch. Have water, do what you need to do, fill up your water. Whatever you've got to do, you just do it so that we can get, because we at that stage then knew we had to go up that massive hill just to get it done. But no, back on your point, I have been appreciating lots of the love I've been getting from fans. I've been pleasantly surprised. It's been nice.
I'm sure it feels
universal
good.
praise.
Universal. I don't think there's anybody
Yeah.
that came out of this season. Like, I mean, being a Troy hater, like, there's nothing to hate. Like, you had a great season. You were kind. You were a great partner. You did extremely well. What I actually wanted to say was, and Kahuna, I'm sure you would agree with me on this, and I'm sure the fans would agree with me on this. I see someone that has the potential to be a Jordan from a competition standpoint. You're very much the same player. You're not as combative as him personality-wise, which is a great plus, because you're definitely more likable. Yeah, I guess if you're combative, they'll want you on the show because you bring drama, right? But I do think you've got that fighter spirit in you. So if someone crosses you, they throw you in the arena, you take shots back. Like you going up against, Emily throwing her back in there as well. That showed a fighter spirit. That showed that you're not going to let people walk on you out there. But from an athletic standpoint, you've got that same body weight ratio to power weight ratio thing going on. You're great at your endurance. You're great at the puzzles. There wasn't really much that stumped you in this finale. So I'd be shocked if they don't reach out to you in the future. So if there was future calls coming your way, is this something that you want to make a thing? Do you want to become a main show competitor more frequently since you are such a big fan? I know it's a dumb question to ask, but I have to ask. The fans will not let me get away from this podcast without asking.
No, that's all right. No, I would love to, obviously. Man, like, I don't know. It's just, like, so strange to tell people what it's like if you haven't experienced it. It's quite surreal. It's like you disappear off the face of the earth for 6 weeks, or at least I've been lucky enough to be gone 6 weeks both times. And you're in this, like, alternate reality where all that matters is this game and what happens inside that game and that sort of thing. So it's really cool and fun. And it's like you hear a lot of the other challenge players say it, that it's like a weird addiction. Like, I don't know, it's like you get tortured in there, you do this treacherous final, you're paranoid half the time, and then you get to the end of it and you're like, man, that was fun. Like, I want to do that again. So yeah, I'd love to do it again. To be honest, it was a great experience. And,
if anybody,
I think
sorry, can I let you go in a sec? If anybody from production ever comes across this channel and just so happen to listen to a fan podcast, get Troy back, because if you look at all the comments that we are getting here in our live right now, Dolores saying, I feel Troy is a true or a future vet. That's how good he is. Israel saying not having Troy in the flagship is a missed opportunity. There's a lot of people here that are saying, yes, Troy has the heart we have been missing. He literally was a breath of fresh air on the Australian version and the Worlds. So I'm here for it. There's so much support and love for you from the fans that I would be shocked if they don't take notice of this and they don't put you back on the show, Troy. Kahuna, go ahead. You wanted to say something. Apologies.
Yeah, that's all right. So we've seen Troy now in 2 back-to-back seasons, and Drew mentioned 2 finals, championship, then a finals, undefeated in eliminations. Your resume, as far as pure statistics go, to be brought back to the flagship, when we've seen so many people get called back many, many times without doing what you've done, is incredibly impressive. The resume speaks for itself, but the context within what we've seen on TV also adds, I think. We've got Casey, who was partnered with Fessy and got chewed out in the finals, where she got a similar injury and really showed how bad Fessy was in that final. She's been partnered with CT and won, and she's sitting here going how amazing you are when she's been with CT, one of the GOATs of all time, right? You've got undefeated in eliminations, when 2 of those were one of them was the most brutal pole wrestle we've seen before a challenge, before a final. Then we see you go into a hall brawl, beat someone who's bigger than you, not Fessy or Zach or something, but still outsized and performing well. Then you've got a rivalry with your own Australian people going on, which you took them out in what I said last week was one of the most humiliating defeats in the challenge history, I think, in context, when you see what happened around it. I think, yes, statistically on paper, your thing looks great. Kaz has got now 2 championships back to back and it looks amazing. But what you've done in context of building a TV show around it while still being the nice guy and not having to be, I'm a big character and I'm bringing good TV, and I'm doing it by being showy, and I'm doing it by being an asshole, and I'm doing it by causing drama. You're not doing any of that. You're doing it just by working hard and being a good bloke. And we don't see that very often on a show like The Challenge. And I think, yes, your resume speaks loudly, but I think what you've done with that also speaks incredibly loudly to bring you back to the flagship. And the Universal praise that we've seen in all the Facebook groups I'm in Reddit and everything. The absolute worst I've seen anyone say about Troy this season. And I don't want to offend you with this, Troy, but I've told you already. The worst anyone has ever said about Troy was meh. Because I think early on in the season, your edit was a bit boring. There's no negativity. There's no bad things. It's just that you didn't get the edit early, but you're showing everyone now what you've been made of. And you said in the end of the final, I hope I represented Australia well. And as an Aussie, mate, you did. You did for sure.
Yeah, it is. No, thank you. I guess for me, I find it hard hearing all this from all these people and even from you guys, because to be honest, I just feel like I'm just an ordinary guy, you know? I just feel like I'm one of you guys. I could be anybody, and I feel like I really am. And for me, I want to show everybody else that, like, if you want to put your mind to something and you really want to do something, you can go do it. Like, if you just try your very best and not allow things to happen, it'll happen for you. So, like, examples of that is, like, exactly hall brawls, pole wrestles, like, outmatched, I guess, outweighted in both of them. And my mindset my entire life has always been like, all right, that's cool. Let's think of 3,000 ways I can verse Conrad or even Danny, let's say, in a hall brawl. I need that one way I can win. I don't need the 2,999 ways, or probably for Danny in a hall brawl, probably 999,999 ways I'd lose. I need that one way I could win. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, 100%.
that's the way I look at it all. And I just think in life, I just want everybody else to look at life in that way, you know, try and think of the ways that you can win in life, whether it's getting a promotion, if that's what you want, or finding, you know, a girlfriend or whatever it may be. And for me, that's just what I feel like I represent, you know.
Yeah, you're the true underdog. You're the true underdog when you go in there, because when we look at you physically, and I'm sure you've gotten it your whole life, you know, just how your height, your stature, you don't look at someone like yourself, Troy, and say, oh, this person's going to run over people or going to win a pole wrestle or is going to, you know, win a hall brawl, for instance. And you go out there and you do it and you consistently perform out there. And I wanted to say that, you know, you mentioned earlier that, you know, it could be good to have this combative personality as like a Jordan, but every good villain needs a good hero. You need the yin and yang to make a good season. So, you know, that archetype for a hero, like they're kind of dying out currently on the main show on the challenge. Like, we need new heroes to get behind. So, but that's all we were going to talk about in regards to your legacy on the game and trying to get you back, because we don't want to continue to butter you up the whole podcast. You know, Let's get back to the final. Let's talk about
the very first part of the final, which was edited out.
Yes, that's what I wanted to come to next. So can you let us know what was edited out? Can you let us know what that first section was?
Yeah, so the first section was like a massive run. We actually started from that train station where we had the bikes. We started from the same train station, except we ran sort of right and by the lake. So we ran like out in front of the lake, across all these hills, all the way over to like the far corner to this like river. And then once we got to this river, our time stopped and they were like, get in the wetsuits. So we had to get in these wetsuits like super quick. And then your time would start again once you sort of left. And you got to this river and you sort of followed this little river. I think I put a photo of it up on Instagram. I think it was my first photo. And you will see photos of other challengers who have put them up because they gave us the photos for them, but they cut it out. Anyway, so that would have been like maybe a 5-kilometer run. And then we went up this dam. There was like a dam wall that had water all coming over it. And we got like clipped in a harness and we had to use the rope and we had to climb on this thin cable and sort of pull ourselves up. But the person at the bottom, which I realised quickly before Jordan, who was behind me, and I faced the opposite way so he couldn't see what I was doing, the person at the bottom could help. So I pulled Casey all the way up really quick. And then he looked over and was like, how's Casey going so quick? And he saw what I was doing and started pulling Kaz up. But then the second person that hit that obviously then didn't have the person at the bottom. So you'd have to climb yourself up and over this dam. Once you got over this dam, you're in the water. You had to do this swim all the way out to these puzzle pieces, which looked like they'd be for a tennagram. So there was about 4 puzzle pieces, I think. So it was a small, easy tennagram. But you went and got the puzzle pieces, and then you had to, like, from there, jog or walk or whatever, run uphill like 3 to 4 kilometers. And that's where you would have seen one of the takes come, I think it was Jordan and Kaz going up that like super steep incline. That was where that came from. And then we went up to the top, there was that puzzle, which was our puzzle pieces. We fitted them in, and what we got was that's when we got our canister with our flag coming out the top. And mind you, that canister was heavy. I reckon it would have weighed about 5 kilos. It was decidedly heavy. And then from there, we had to run back to the train with our canisters.
So how long do you reckon? How long do you reckon this whole section sort of took you before you? Because I did find it strange because I used to do quite a lot because I've told you before I do Spartan races, obstacle course races. So I used to go running like on weekends. I'd do like a 21-kilometer run, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of know how long that would take you to do that type of running. And at 28 kilometers, I was thinking in my mind, how did it get so late? You know, because it didn't feel like something didn't match up. So this was obviously the section that we didn't see. How long do you reckon that took? And, you know, were you quite surprised they took such a big portion of the finale out?
Yeah, I reckon it was about 15 to 20 kilometers longer running, maybe about 800 meters of swimming.
Yeah.
And I reckon it was probably took us 3 to 4 hours to complete round trip back to the train. So, yeah.
Right. And then you had the section after that, which probably would have taken another 4 hours. So you probably were out there
that would have
8
taken
hours.
Longer. Yeah, that would have taken probably longer than 4. Yeah, that was a while. Yeah, probably about 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. Probably about the same, maybe a bit.
You obviously had the different segments that you had to do every time you got to a checkpoint. And with the checkpoint, it was quite interesting. It didn't, in the beginning, I was looking at it and I was like, it doesn't really matter which one you go for first because you're going to end up going back there. You have to do all of them. But it didn't work out so well for Danny, Tori, Jordan, and Kaz. And that's where you kind of got the opportunity to go past both Danny and Tori again towards the end of the day because they all ended up on the same eating challenge right at the end. So was there a bit of thinking going on in regards to keeping track of who's doing what? Were you able to do that, or was it a bit of dumb luck that you didn't get stuck there?
No, that wasn't dumb luck, and they didn't show that either. But it was funny. That's why when we started running off, you might have seen people walk pretty quick because we'd already done that bulk before. But when we first got there and we did the wait for it, we did leave in third not long after Tori and Danny. That one that Tori and Danny did, can I just give a hats off to Danny because throwing that bolt in that little bucket ages away was really hard, and he was the one, that I've seen, that got it actually done really quickly. So that man's got an arm on it. Anyway, so we knew that Sarah and Theo had the drink, and that was the only station we felt like we could get held up on. So our whole thing as we were running in third now was, okay, if we don't do the drink this time round, which would have been our second checkpoint, then we'd have to do it the third time round. But if Tori and Danny are thinking strategically and they think that they see that Kaz and Jordan, who are in the lead, haven't done it and they do it, then we've got to wait for them to finish or Jordan and Kaz to finish if we happen to catch up to them. So we sort of bit the bullet, and I was like, because at this stage, she was just focused on what she was doing. So I said to her, we've got to do the drink second to make sure we prevent being held up, because we knew that was a possibility. It was explained to us clearly that you had to, if a station was full and you hadn't done it yet, you had to wait. So I knew that station was taking the longest because Sarah and Theo took a while on it, and I know how bad that was. Like, that drink was disgusting, and I felt like it was worse for us MVPs in a way because we had already had it, so we were like vomiting before we even started drinking it. Pretty much
PTSD.
Oh, so bad. I was so happy, and I didn't care if they give me some flack for this, but I'm so happy some of the legends had to try that because that was bad. And I told them that to qualify, and I'm happy they got to suffer along with us.
Did they?
Yeah, you made
guys. Did they end up telling you guys what they put in it?
No, they didn't. But I want to make it my life's mission now to recreate it so that I can give it back to the challenge fans so that they can try it out and they can be like, wow, that was incredibly disgusting. So I'm going to do my best. I actually might get some feelers out after this, and I'll do my best to try and find out what the rough recipe was. I'll either make it at home, I'll taste it at home, make sure it tasted the same because I can never forget that taste, and I'll try and get it out to the fans because I reckon the fans are dying to taste that one because it was gross, man. So gross.
You made full use of Paramount Plus's F-bombs when it came to that check as well.
It's funny. I haven't even dropped one the whole episode. I am known to drop one from time to time, especially because I'm a Sadie, I'm a talented. So I do drop it from time to time when I'm frustrated. Generally, I don't say it to people. I just say it in frustration, just ambiguously, I guess. But yeah, when I was watching it with my family and my grandma and all that after they're like, "Oh, you represented yourself so well this season," and then in that episode, I'm dropping the F-bomb every 2 seconds. It's fair to say, yeah, grandma wasn't happy with me.
So Drew from the Angel Cake Entertainment channel here is saying that he actually wants to know what's in the shake because he actually wants to try it out. Now, you might say BS, but I will say this about Drew. He has been doing all Rachel's workout DVD sets that she's been doing on YouTube, giving it a crack. So I do believe that if he had his hands on that recipe, if you could get it, Troy, you should definitely let him know what that is so we can see him do it live on camera and we can laugh at him for not being able to finish it. Because I tell you one thing, I hate any kind of like food challenges or like I'm a picky eater. So this would be like the physical stuff. I think the physical stuff I'd love to give it a crack, but as soon as I get to that would be my worst fear, Troy, doing something like that.
That was my biggest fear. But as I said, like my whole thing is just mind over matter. If you want something, go get it and don't let anything get in your way. And that's the attitude I had when I attacked that. Because I can't even eat tomatoes. I hate tomatoes. That's how picky I am. So my eating was my biggest fear. And I'm surprised.
It, right?
Yeah. I'm surprised how well I handled it. I had a very good strategy for that because I actually physically couldn't swallow it. So what I was doing is I had my water in my Camel's pack. I would lace my mouth with water. So I'd get the taste of water, just that not taste the other crap. And then I would just go swallow it really quick and then hopefully not vomit. But then we were watching, I don't know whether they were watching the other teams like Hawks, but they were definitely watching us like Hawks. And they're like, if you don't drink that, we're going to add more. Like, I think I might have done it once where I didn't quite swallow first. And I just because I couldn't, I had to vomit some back up. And they're like, no, you have to swallow. You have to swallow. So they were pretty strict on that.
So how did Danny get away with it?
Oh, I think
Danny
he might
was
that
like
might
doing like circular breathing.
I think that might have been the only time he did it, That's what I'm saying. The edit might not have shown the amount of times he actually did swallow it, because we all did it, but not much. Like, I reckon I would have at least drank over 3/4 of that smoothie and actually actually swallowed it to probably vomit it back up anyway, but at least 3/4 of it. And I'm assuming most of the other teams did as well because they were watching us like Hawks and threatening to add more to it and the rest of it. So, like, don't make us give you another drink.
Chris is saying here she'll pass on trying the drinks, but thanks for offering that, Troy, to the fans.
Look, I just wanted to, see if, for those who are interested.
Share the love.
Isn't, but that's all right.
Danica is saying, was it because Tori is a vegan? They used to do, they do a much worse thing. So she's saying that because she's a vegan, maybe the ingredients is worse.
I don't know whether the shake was there because she was vegan, probably. I'm not entirely sure. You're going to have to ask production about that. But I'm telling you right now, I would rather drink blood, do other things than drink that smoothie again. That was disgusting. Like, I felt like it didn't do, unless you've had it, it doesn't do it justice. Like, it was so bad. There's a reason people were barely even able to swallow it and vomiting instantly. Like, I'm telling you right now, I'd nearly put I don't want to lose money, but I'd nearly put $1,000 on it, but nobody could drink that whole smoothie without vomiting. Nobody. Unless you have no
I believe it. like, listen, I'm not Angel Cake who wants to take you on. He might take you on for that money because he's saying he wants to go up against CT and Tony.
Oh, there you go. CT and Tony can just anything. That's what somebody just said in the chat. But maybe they could do it, but I reckon they'd still vomit. That was so bad. It was gross.
No, I believe that. But
I really do appreciate. Sorry, setting up finals, like the loops of hell. I do like that TJ was like, you're going to do 4 loops and they're going to be hell. And I thought that was funny. But the fact that they had the checkpoints and one of them was the drink, it means they could get the really disgusting vomiting at different times from different people. So that they're just constantly getting someone there at this checkpoint vomiting disgustingly on camera. And it was very smart that they did that. Not everyone at the same time. We're going to time it out so we've got an entire show worth of vomit.
Man, when you're drinking that, he's there laughing. God damn it. There's nothing more than that, I reckon. It's like, TJ, you get out of here and taste it. But fair enough. I guess he deserves to laugh at it.
So out of the four things that you had to do there, you said the shake was the one that was the hardest. Was there anything that you felt like, man, immediately I just got this off the bat? Because obviously there was a code that you had to decipher. There was the one where you had to throw that bolt. Yeah, apparently the code one's quite controversial. So I just read a little bit into that before coming into this live, before jumping into the Patreon's live for Angel Cake's channel. If you're new to this channel, go check out Angel Cake and consider joining his Patreon. He does a lot of work behind the scenes, and he's got a really good community there as well. But I was reading on Reddit at the same time that there were people that said that Danny and both Jordan didn't solve the code correctly. Have you seen any of this news that are out there?
I have. Yeah, I saw that on Twitter, 042 and 062. I have seen the discussion.
062. It's 062.
I'm not entirely sure whether Jordan had, because they didn't show any. I'm pretty sure I put 062 there first. I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty confident it was, and I got told it was incorrect. And then put 042 there after. So I don't know if that happened to them too. So I can't speak for if they actually had 062 and then wrote 042. But I'm thinking, you want my view on it? I'm thinking both answers were right because, which is why if I had 062, it probably should have been right. Because if you actually read the question, it says, there are two numbers in this thing that are right and wrong place. But it doesn't say, which is implied that it's only two, but it doesn't say there's only two. If it said there was only two very strictly, then I would agree. I think it's the 402 clue or the 204, whatever it is, clue. But it actually doesn't say only. So I'm erring on the side of that 042 was also correct, but that might be wrong too. I did see, I think it was Angel Cake's video about it being, has to be 062. But the fact that it doesn't say only in the wording, I guess it sort of implied, which is why I thought it was implied that the other numbers wouldn't be there because it didn't say, but because it didn't say
it
only.
is implied.
Yeah, it's implied, but it's not.
Implied in the language.
Yeah, but it doesn't literally say only though, so I guess it still could be 042. But I get what you're saying, yeah. So that's where it's hard for me as to which one's the right answer, but I don't think it mattered anyway, to be honest. I think maybe I would have been 5 minutes quicker. Maybe the other teams would have been 5 minutes quicker too, because I don't know what answers they put down first, if they did put an answer down first. And I think in the grand scheme of things, even if it was 5 to 10 minutes quicker, it wouldn't have mattered. I was still behind Jordan and Kaz, so I was still getting only my half an hour's sleep, and they were still getting their hours. So
yeah. So Israel here is saying basically production can't get away with anything, no transparency at all. I do think that the fans are really onto these things. There's a lot of detectives out there that look at these things very quickly. But Chris is saying exactly true. I think the only is the distinction. That is why 042 was probably the right answer as well. Now, Kahuna, as a fan for a long time, we've been sort of looking at finals and we've always been thinking to ourselves, the first day almost doesn't matter because it's such a small difference when it comes to the advantage that you get starting on the second day. Coming into this episode, did Jordan and Kaz get enough of an advantage for winning the first day, in your opinion? They had, an hour's worth of sleep and I believe 15 minutes head start on the finale. Do you think that the balance was right between Troy, Casey? I think, Troy, you and Casey had half an hour's sleep and you were 15 minutes behind the starters, right, for this one. It almost feels like when we look at Akuna, it feels like there's so much effort being put in for very little reward going into that second day. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been an issue of, what distance or what lead I've built up over the first day is completely erased by the second. But they're doing it for TV. They want to have a close race. They want to have it, make it look like it's close. And I get that they do it. And the fact that they're going to do that anyway, and we've seen in the past where an hour lead equals a 2-minute head start or something, something ridiculous. So the fact that they're trying to balance it out with the sleep, I think, is a good thing. That it's not that your lead is erased, but you get benefits or you get perks for being ahead and not just time based. Because we as a production company, as a TV show, we want to make sure it's close. So we're going to give you additional benefits like the sleep or the lack of sleep if you last. First of all, I want to say as well, Troy, I think it was really messed up that they gave you that half an hour at 6:30 a.m. when the sun is already shining into the train carriage, and you're supposed to get an hour of sleep at the worst possible time. Couldn't have been done at 3 a.m. when it's dark out or whatever.
Well, that's why I think maybe the hour mattered more because, if you take 10 minutes to get to sleep, let's say, mind you, I only took a couple minutes. I was zonked out straight away. But, you're getting like 50 minutes of sleep, saying if you have 10 minutes to get to sleep and you get half an hour and you get 20 minutes, that's like over double the amount of sleep, which when you look at it that way is a lot more. I don't think 20 minutes for me is enough to reset my eyes and that and my body and my mind, but I feel like 50 minutes might be, you know what I mean? It might be that little bit extra. So as for whether it was a good enough advantage or not, I don't know. You'd have to speak to Jordan and Kaz because they're the ones who got an hour. I only got half an hour, and I'll tell you right now, that was crap. And having 15 minutes would be even worse.
Yeah, you're not even falling asleep in 15 minutes. Like
I think
morning sun.
So, like, I think if I'd have had 15, I think if I'd have had 15 minutes, like, I would have been pretty bad in the final at puzzles, and like I wouldn't have been quite there for the bike riding and that sort of thing. Especially when you're bike riding, having to look out for rocks and all the rest of it. And, I guess if I was a bit more tired, I might have hit a rock with my bike, come off, hurt myself. Like you never know. So I don't know. From a spectator's point of view, and a production standpoint, it's probably better that they reset the time for the race wise. And then all of a sudden, it was a bit clearer as well because all of a sudden Casey and I are in the lead from the bike ride and we are in the lead. It's not like, but Kaz and Jordan 15 minutes behind, or unless I guess you literally started them 14 minutes ahead and then you could properly see. But I think from a visual perspective as well, it's a bit easy to keep track of.
Yeah, I think for me personally, and I mean, again, I it's hard because I didn't run the race, so I don't know how my body would have felt, but half an hour, I would have just been like, geez, I don't even know if I need that half an hour. I'm probably going to be worse off for sleeping half an hour than what I would be just to like soldier through it. But 15 minutes, that's an absolute lose in my opinion. Caswash here has got the comment of the night so far saying, no one can convince me that Kaz wasn't asleep with a face in that bowl of water.
I think there's something up here too. Because I asked them, because what's being considered sleeping, right? Because I could have my eyes shut but be talking, right? So that's not sleeping. So I'm pretty sure what they had was considered sleeping. Just to clear that up for everybody as well, is that you had to have your eyes shut for approximately a minute and not talk. So if you wanted to keep your eyes shut and run that gauntlet of not talking and whatnot, and you were shut for a minute, even if you were awake a minute and didn't talk, you would have got zapped and whatever else.
So was the shock collar like, it wasn't triggered, it was triggered manually, like that person's watching you. If you fall asleep, I'm pressing the button. Yeah. What a horrible job. What a job.
What a brilliant job.
Just to torture people. Like, I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, I'm going to let them sleep.
I would have loved to do it. Yeah, if you guys need, if you guys, I'm just putting it out there, TJ, if you guys need someone to handle the torture devices for the next finale, I'm putting my hand up there. I'll volunteer for it. But I mean, how did it feel being out there? Because like, Angel Cake said here, the train scene was his favorite scene with everybody joking and just bonding and the camaraderie of you guys just trying to help each other to get through the night.
Oh, yeah. We had these shock collars and there was a bit of extra punishments. I don't want to go into that if you got shocked, but nobody ended up getting shocked, thankfully. But we were all so scared and so worried and like about falling asleep that we actually sort of come together. We played so many fun games that they cut out. We played like charades, like somebody stood up there and like pretended to be TJ and like we had to guess who it was and that sort of thing. And we had someone pretend to be Johnny Bananas and like it was so much fun and we're just having a ball and playing these games just to try and tick by the time. And there was a lot of fun moments in that time. And then as the night got on and later and later and later, that's when we slowly started like, ice the heads in the bath, splashing people with water. And it was actually a really fun time, but the whole time we were all just so incredibly like paranoid and worried about falling asleep.
Because you didn't want to test the shock? You didn't want to see what it was like at least?
No, and there's a reason for that, but I won't go into it. There was a bit more than just a shock that would have happened.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I don't want to go into it because I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, well, hopefully in the future we'll, you know, couple of seasons down the line, maybe it'll come out one day.
But there's a punishment far worse than a shock.
We don't want Bun and Murray on upon Nuremberg trials for like torture.
Yeah.
But no, it was full on. It was so much fun, and I'm glad they at least encaptured some of the fun we had on that train scene, and because it was a real good time.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously the other thing that you guys had there at the train as well was the IV drip, right? So you got Casey, Danny, and who was the other person that went for it? Casey,
Kaz.
Danny, and Kaz, right? So
I think,
talk us through it. Like,
so I think,
what was the decision making going into? Obviously, Casey was struggling, so you were like, whatever you can give her just as a boost.
Yeah, so I think all our team strategies were, all right, let's give it to the person who needed it the most. And that was simple. So I've seen Danny get a bit of flack online for not giving it to Tori. It's like, come on, guys. Like, Tori would have had it if she had needed it, and Danny would have happily given it to her. We all know that. That's fact. But they obviously made a strategic decision that maybe Danny was struggling a little bit more with the running, I'm guessing. So let's give it to Danny. Let's try and get him up and loaded for the next day. And that was the same strategy with me and Casey. I knew Casey was struggling, so I'll give it to her. And it was the same with Jordan and Kaz, where Jordan, obviously, we know who Jordan is and how good he is. So give it to Kaz, to give her the upper hand.
Yeah, makes 100% sense.
See, I like that too. I like that they went, we're going to give IVs, we're going to have food. We're not going to completely kill these people in this train. But
that food was delicious, but it was a setup. And I was so paranoid eating the whole time. Like, the mind games on that train were insane. Fear and Sprex, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay for this? I didn't eat heaps because I was worried that if I had eaten heaps, I was going to drop a food challenge on me straight away. I didn't know what was coming. And I was paranoid as all hell. And it was delicious food. So we ate, and it was funny because we ate and we had our bellies full. We're actually probably more susceptible to try and fall asleep to get shot. So I'm thinking that that's why they did it. And the fine was already hard enough anyway.
I do appreciate.
I was surprised by you go ahead, Kuna.
The fact that they're giving the IVs, but they're still making it a strategic choice. Not everyone gets it. Here's a benefit, but you still need to choose wisely how you're going to use it. I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty clever too.
I found it funny. I found it funny how they had champagne there, and Tori immediately is going for the champagne in the middle of a final, and you have to keep running. What other beverages was there? Was it only alcohol, or did you get?
They had water there too. No, they had. It was either alcohol or water, but yeah, it was funny, Tori. Straight for the champagne. I think we all just did a bit of a toast. I'm not sure whether we all drank it. I think I drank that much of the champagne just shooting the toast, and after that I was like, I better smarten up. So I don't know. Actually, I don't remember if Tori drank at all. At that stage, I was still looking to my left and right, seeing if TJ would get popped around the corner and drop this insane elimination on us or something. I don't know. I was just shitting bricks the whole time.
I would have as well. Dolores is asking who ate the most out there.
Oh, Kaz was hoeing in. She probably ate a fair bit. Kaz was absolutely hoeing in. She didn't seem to care about the repercussions. And Tori, Jordan, and myself and Danny were probably the three that were a bit sus.
What's going on?
She was actually, I didn't see this, but she would have had next to nothing to eat because she was at that stage couldn't stomach anything. Her body was shutting down, and I wish I had paid more attention to that because maybe if I'd have seen these signs earlier, maybe I could have helped her out or made her eat or something. But I think that, I don't know. For me, it's a bunch of would have, could have, should haves now. Now that I'm looking back on it, but I think I still did the best I could in saying that as well. But anyway,
Dolores is asking the questions everyone really wants to know, and she's asking what she really wants to know is where do you go to the bathroom while you're out there and you're doing this final? Dolores
with the absolute big questions. No, luckily the Fear Express wasn't called the Hold Your Urinary Tract Express, I guess, or Hold Your Bladder Express. There was a toilet on the train.
And if it's in the middle of the final, you just got to go in the bushes, right?
Beds on the train, mind you, we didn't get to use the bed. Oh, we did night one, but we didn't get to use the beds for that night. But there was a toilet on the train, so that was nice. At least you could go to the toilet at the end of the day.
Yeah, and if you're out in the finals, I'm assuming you just run, like if you're running outside, there's bushes, so you just got to go do your thing. That's what it's like. That's what it's like in an obstacle course race.
Yeah, well, that's what I had to do on the Australian season because I had a bad case of diarrhea. My missus would kill me for saying that, but I had to like literally every checkpoint because I like come first off the I had to run off into the bushes and go to the toilet because my stomach had just been absolutely beaten by Conrad and that paddle ball, like, oh, my bladder, oh, gross. But anyway, probably a bit too much info there.
No, I mean, listen, Dolores wanted to know. She's asking the hard-hitting question, so we had to bring it up. Asia is saying, oh, I saw the pain in Casey's face in that team confessional. I never thought I would feel for her, but she fought this season. Yeah, 100% agree. Elise saying, did Cass fall asleep? Because he totally looked like she was out before Jordan was saying her name. I think she was dozing off.
Yeah, Kaz was almost fallen asleep, so she nearly topped it. But actually didn't see it, but in that last half an hour, Jordan actually was close to falling asleep. Like, he rested his head for a bit. He was that close. But in the end, he just managed to battle off. I think someone went, hey, Jordan, and woke him up. I don't know whether it was Kaz or Danny. Somebody sort of woke him up before he got that. So, yeah, very fortunate.
Now, Troy, I don't want to forget this. I just randomly remembered you showed us a little memorabilia that you got from the show. Do you have it there to show the fans? Because the fans might want to see it as well. You actually managed to snag something from the finals.
What memorabilia?
Actually, never happened. There we go. Just for a split second there, for those who saw, they saw. For those who didn't, they didn't. So if you're listening to the audio version, I'm not going to confirm or deny what he showed us. You might have to come to the YouTube video to come have a quick, look at it. But it's really cool. So you told us, Troy, they don't really give you guys much from the finale to take home with you to have as a memory. It's probably not something that's like front of mind, right, for a lot of challenges because they come back every season.
Yeah, I don't think it's through like ill will or anything. I just don't think it's up there in their priority list. And I know that, a few of us who might not get another chance to ever do it again, like myself, Kiki, even Emily and Grant, I knew that they're big on memorabilia. Us Australians love sort of these little mementos that we can take home to keep. So I was always looking for little things to take home and keep if I was allowed to.
What about the ticket to the Fear Express that they played in slow motion? Yeah, because TJ was like, "You'll need this later."
Yeah,
It never came up again.
Yeah, we actually had to show our tickets on the way in. They didn't show it, but we had to show our tickets on the way into the train. So that was cool. It was funny though when that train pulled up. Actually, going back to the start of the episode, and the train was pulling in because we were like, all of us were like memorizing everything on the train. We're memorizing our tickets, every single word, every single letter, what number we had because we thought the numbers might come into play. So it was full on. The second like that finals hit and that train came in, everyone was just like wired, So,
game mode.
Yeah, game mode. It was cool and fun to see. So I felt like even though you had a bed to rest on, you weren't fully relaxed at any point.
Dolores here in the chat is saying the key to success is to remain silent, Troy.
Exactly right. Just remain
and Daniga's saying, don't say that. We want to see you back. We want to see you come back to the main show. So obviously that's up to the producers. But I know Troy said earlier he'd be more than willing to go out there and do this again. Another question that we had earlier, just before we get into this last two sections here of the finale, someone, and I forgot their name, so apologies, it's not my question, it's someone else's name, but they asked, who from this season of the challenge do you reckon would translate well over to Ninja Warrior if they were to get a chance? Who do you think has got the skill set?
Ninja Warrior? That's a good question. I actually reckon yes. He's got very good ability to weight and power ratio as well. I know he does bouldering and slacklining, so I actually reckon yes would translate really well to Ninja Warrior. Emily's tried it. She struggled a little bit, but, with some practice, she might be all right. But I reckon, I was going to say Jordan, but Jordan might struggle on a few of the obstacles, obviously, because of his hand. But he would be the type that would be good at Ninja Warrior. Not so much like your bigger competitors like your Dannys and Theos. I reckon they would struggle. Who else would be good? In terms of girls, I don't think Kiki would be much good. I reckon Kellyanne.
What about Kaz, the champion?
Kaz would be good. Yeah, good power to weight. I reckon Kaz would be good. Probably Kellyanne, like your lighter frames, your skinnier, smaller ladies. They're generally really good at Ninja. So I reckon my picks are, to get it brief and sharp, Yes, and I forgot the other guy. Oh, geez, I've done really well here. And yes for the guys, and Kaz and Kellyanne for the girls. I reckon we'll be good at Ninja.
Now, Troy, that's who would be good at Ninja. Now, we've seen the challenge really sort of farm from Big Brother.
Oh, yeah, Horatio. Sorry, someone said Horatio. Yeah, I've seen him compete. He'd be good.
USA
But I
2
didn't-
looks like it's going heavy on Big Brother and Survivor. What would happen if they really started dipping into Ninja Warrior? We've seen Natalie go well. We've seen you go well. Would Ninja Warrior dominate the challenge if they just started getting more and more people in?
Yeah, I reckon we wouldn't necessarily dominate the challenge because, like, my best mate Ashland, for example, he's an absolute guru, but I reckon he would get himself socially in a lot of bad situations. So I think you would see very high-level athletes. I'm not sure how a lot of them, the other ones, would go on the puzzle side of things and the mental aspect, but I definitely think it's a pool that they should consider dipping into because I know one of my good friends would love, a few of my good friends would love the opportunity now to come on the challenge but couldn't, and were actually contacted before me because of contract reasons. Like I know Olivia Vivian, who's pretty much the most popular and famous of the ninjas in Australia. She would love a chance. Zach, who actually got me on the show, would love to have the chance. And, I'd love to have the chance to sort of have my own people on the show too, sort of like the Survivor have their own people. So, yeah, I reckon it's something they should consider dipping into.
And Drew's saying here, don't forget everyone that Fessy actually competed on Ninja Warrior.
Oh, how did he go? Can you tell me how he went? Oh,
Yeah,
and lost.
he lost.
Okay. Yeah, but how did he lose? Like, what obstacle? Apparently Bananas did it as well. I was
Yeah.
Chris here too. He'll come back, I'm sure.
And then, of course, Elise said, let's all forget that Fessy was on Ninja. So, yeah. Like, I mean, I called it from the preview episode of Challenge Australia when I said Troy's a Ninja Warrior. I don't know that much about him, but I know I've seen him on Ninja Warrior, and any one of those people are competitive and able to do well. So I picked it that you would go well in the challenge. It is interesting to see where they choose their cast from, you know what I mean? Like, and I think Ninja Warrior is showing that it could be a very fertile ground if they start going back to that.
Absolutely, and it's interesting you say that because I feel like that's something they might have wanted to do a bit more of on the Australian season to see not only how I would go, because I was obviously the only ninja that ended up getting picked, but they actually contacted a lot of ninjas, so maybe they did want to dip into that and see how I'd go on the Australian one. Unfortunately, it didn't end up that well in the sense that they only got me and they didn't get multiple. I don't know if that was their plan, but maybe they were going to try that out, on the Australian one, and then maybe even use that later in the American one to get some American Ninja Warriors over as well if it was successful.
So just to confirm, Elise said that Bananas was terrible in Ninja Warrior. And then someone asked, did Johnny just do it for the paycheck and exposure? I mean, Drew replied, did he do it for his NBC show he used to have? So there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Who would you like to see cast on the challenge? If not you going forward, which we all hope that it is.
Yeah.
Who do you think would be good on the show?
Yeah, so obviously, from my perspective as Australian, I'd like to see other Australians on there, and I know a lot of Australians, so I'm going to dip into them. But I've got a really good mate, Zach Stolz, who's won Ninja Warrior Australia twice, 2 years in a row. He's a current reigning champion. I'd love to see him on it. I wouldn't mind I'm just saying mates here, but my other mate, Ashland, who's been also on Ninja Warrior like 6 times, he would socially be awkward and I reckon he would end up in a lot of fights. I reckon he's the opposite of drama, but he's got a short fuse and he can get angry quickly. But he just stands up for what he believes in, so I'd love to see him on it. And Olivia Vivian as well. She's a strong woman. I think they need more strong women on the show, and I think she would really give the show a run for her money. Like, I reckon, yeah, if you could cast her, and especially at the moment now she's free of contract, get her on.
There you go. Welcome back, Chris.
We've got Chris back.
Yeah. Apologies. Obviously, in my hotel room and the internet just went, so I've just jumped on my mobile instead. So hopefully the internet connection doesn't fail on me again. That's how things happen when you do things live. Sometimes things can go wrong. But
yeah, sorry. Back to what the subject we're on. Yeah, we'll talk about people that I'd love cast. And Marley, get my boy Marley back on. Man, I could use
Yeah, I
Marley.
endorse that.
Man, I would love to be able to pay him back because I really felt like he took a bullet for me in the Australian season. You know, it was either me going in or him, and unfortunately, it was him and Emily, and then they went home. So I felt like he ended up being my shield, and I was really close with him in the house. I reckon he had a lot more to give, and unfortunately, he just didn't get the chance to shine. So yeah, I'd love to see
Marley
Marley.
is a legitimate athlete, you know, someone that has played basketball at the highest level over in Australia, right? And not just that, he's also got a great social and strategic game from playing in Big Brother. I was a big fan of him when he played his Big Brother season. It just so happens to be the only Big Brother Australian season that I've ever watched. But yeah, he was great. So I endorse that definitely. I think Marley on the show would be a lot of fun moving forward. Did we talk about the main show or for the Challenge Australia? What are we talking about here? Because obviously I missed out on that.
Well,
Well,
people, yeah,
Sorry,
who you'd
go.
like to see in the challenge? Because we probably, unfortunately, Challenge Australia, it looks like it might not be coming back. So just who's our dream people to get on the show? Like, because he's had such good experience with Ninja Warrior, and it's done so well for the two people that we've had on. So we're just kind of expanding the net a bit.
Yeah, Angel Cake here is saying Ride or Dies 2. Would love to see Marley and Troy paired up on a season like that. Well, that would be true Ride or Dies, because some of the Ride or Dies I wasn't too sure about in the previous season. They were kind of stretching a little bit to get some of those pairs made up for it as well. Chris saying Orlando internet strikes again. Yes, it's an interesting internet connection sometimes over here. I didn't know that was a thing, Chris. I'm obviously learning on the go at the moment here. All right, so on the final, I guess there was two sections to this. There was the bike ride section that you had to get through. Is that something, Troy, that you practice for a lot? Do you do a lot of riding bikes and things like that over there? And how like for me, because I've done both, but I definitely would say I'm a better runner than what I'm a cyclist. There's a difference, right? For people who don't know.
I hate bike riding. I'm not afraid to say it. In saying that though, I really like mountain bike riding. Which is weird. And I've done that a lot in my younger life, but I hate riding on roads and like road bike riding and all that sort of stuff because I don't enjoy it. I've got a bony butt, so the seat always hurts. I'm not a big guy as well, and like you need a lot of weight to push through, so I've got to use my quads more. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of bike riding, but I actually really like that finals bike riding because there was a lot of downhill, not so much quad bike, like, so much using your strength, but your balance and your coordination and all that, which I'm a lot better at when it comes to bike riding. So I like mountain bike riding. I guess it's a good way to put it. And I hate just riding for fitness.
And luckily you guys weren't tethered together because they've done that a few times in finals where they would tether the two bike riders together. And I think that's the worst. Like how you don't get into like big accidents. I don't know.
If they had done that there, it would have been carnage. In saying that though, Casey and I were pretty good and we were pretty even. She actually led the way and she was hammering down that bike ride. Man, I thought she was dead on her legs, and then she came out at the start of the day too and just was like, boom, off she went. And I was just like trying to keep up with her, and she was like doing little jumps and over the rocks, and she was flying. So I felt like for us, that was the perfect segment, especially with Casey's body not being 100%, because I felt like it wasn't that heavy quad, so it was sort of a bit more of not crashing, making sure you steer correctly. It wasn't overly heavy on the parts of her body that were just shutting down at that stage. So yeah, we obviously got a fair bit of a lead.
And then you guys get to the slider puzzle, which I've seen some people criticize the slider puzzle a little bit online, where they said that it was falling apart, Troy, as you guys were moving it around.
He even apologized.
Yeah, I think it was getting pretty frustrating doing that slider puzzle because it was actually a really hard one. In hindsight, if I did it again, because it wasn't like you had 4 even bits or five even bits and you could just move them wherever you wanted. There was one bigger bit, but you couldn't just move around when you wanted. So it was like these triangle things, and it took us a while. It probably took us 15 plus minutes to solve it, maybe even half an hour to solve it. But, in that time it was fine because Casey was on the ground. But actually before that, I'll go into it as well because I'm pretty sure you might have heard from other people as well. There was a bit more to it that we actually rode our bikes. We got off at our bikes and we actually had to hop on a rowboat and we had to row out to the middle of the lake, or about the middle of the lake, and we had to get these answers. And to questions, and then we had to take them back on the rowboat all the way back to where we dropped off the bike, and then we had to put the questions to the answers. So, for example, one of them was who in the show doesn't like bananas, which is obviously Amber. Another one of the questions was who got nominated for elimination the most, which actually wasn't myself and Casey. It was Tristan and Kellyanne and Benha and Jody, because their names got said the most. So, yeah, there was a whole bunch. We had to sort of fill out the blanks. There was maybe 12 questions with 12 answers. So, yeah, that entire section got missed out on. And then after that, then we ran up. And it's a shame they didn't show that, because we were actually ages ahead of Jordan and Kaz at that point. But the second they got into their rowboat, I don't know what Jordan was on. That man is incredible at rowing. He was like, they caught up to us a fair way on that rowing segment. Maybe, 3 to 4 minutes worth of time at least. So,
wow. Yeah, I
Jordan,
feel like, we missed some crucial aspects of this final, and it being on Paramount Plus, you would imagine that there is no time limit to how long an episode could be, because it's a streaming platform. It's not like they're trying to fit it into a specific segment on CBS or MTV because of advertisement and other scheduling. So I'm really sort of puzzled by the fact that we didn't see a lot of this extra content, which would have made a lot more sense. Yeah,
and that boat was super rickety too. So we nearly fell in, and
like, you're talking about a boat. You mentioned the dam with water and stuff. It seems like the more visually dynamic stuff they kept out, and then just kept the running. Like, run up the hill, run down the hill, run up the hill, ride the bike up the hill, ride the, and they left that all, and then kept the stuff that maybe visually looked cooler.
Yeah. Well, I think they're kind of like airlines, right? They overbook the final. They get you, all these different challenges to do, and then they, end up only showing us 3 out of the 5, which they think will be visually more appealing.
I'm not going to comment on production. I think they do a great job.
Oh no, I get it. No, we can do it. We fans are commenting on it from what we see. This is not Troy. Troy is not bagging on production here at all. This is Kahuna and Chris saying that, why. But I mean, listen, at the end of the day, they've been doing this for a very long time, right? So this is over 40 seasons of the challenge with all the spin-offs as well. They know what they're doing. They know the secret sauce. They know what keeps people coming back. Do they always get it right? No. But at the end of the day, when you're production, you've got to make 20 decisions each episode. We criticize them for the 2 that they get wrong, instead of sometimes looking at the 18 things that they got right. Doesn't mean that we can't hold them accountable. It doesn't mean that it's because we're passionate and we want to see the show succeed. But I just want to say, hats off to production for getting another season done and dusted. In my opinion, Kahuna, I don't know if you still agree with me on this. I think this is one of the best seasons we've seen in a very, very long time. And a big reason for that is because of the level of competition when it comes to the newbies that they've now introduced to the franchise, and which is the reason why I would be severely disappointed if they don't take some of these MVPs and put them back on the show, because they've now invested in them over multiple seasons, right, Kahuna?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were saying from the start, when you originally did your draft and we were looking at the teams, and I was like, there's really not a lot of weak teams here that could be the early round fodder, and the ones that we sort of deemed that way kind of ended up being that way. But there was such a really strong competitive balance amongst all the teams, and to see that going towards the end was something that we've been looking for a long time in the challenge. And to have so many teams be able to compete at that level is not something that we get across the board. Usually there's 3 or 4 strong teams, and then other people make up the numbers. In this instance, I think we saw a very strong cast across the board, and then put on a very good season, and a strong season that we haven't really seen, that the friction and the going against each other and all that sort of thing, which added to it. I think, it was a really strong season, one of the best we've seen in a while, and I hope that continues, and they can build off of that with some really strong cast members that we've seen brought in this season. We're talking to one today, but there's a lot of people on the season which I think would make great mainstays in the flagship for sure.
100%. Angel Cake is saying production would rather have more footage than not enough, which is what I think kind of happened as well. Elise is asking, I wonder if there would have been a purge if Sarah and Theo didn't get disqualified. Yeah, that could have been a thing, right? Because they sometimes bring those purges in. Danika's saying, you know who calls out production? Tyson. And here's the funny thing: he calls them out, and they still want him to come back and play the game again, even after that, because he's Tyson. Everybody loves Tyson. I don't know if there was any Tyson stories out there, Troy, when you were there. Did anybody bring him up at all?
Yeah, at the start, Sarah, Danny, and Ben did talk about him a little bit, but not overly much. I don't exactly remember the conversations we had about him, if I'm being honest. But yeah, from the
Tyson doesn't give an
info I got, Angel Cake summed it up first, please. Just then.
Yeah, pretty much. He just does what he wants to do. Now, obviously, this has been a great season. Troy, you've been a great part of this season as well. We've really enjoyed seeing you there. So we really hope that we get to see you come back again on the show in the future. Is there any questions that we didn't ask you on this recap and review? Anything that you wanted to clarify? This is your opportunity to sort of speak, clear the air. If there was anything that we sort of didn't see, or we sort of miscalled it from our end as fans podcasting about it. We try and be as fair as we can normally, and we try and look at all the different angles, but I'm sure we do get it wrong sometimes as well. Is there anything you wanted to clear up? Anything you wanted to say about the season as a whole?
No, not too much. Just I think I think a few people had editing complaints that we got our key second at the top of the hill, which we did, but Dory and Danny weren't that far behind us, and I guess they just wanted to show like they were ahead of us for some reason. Like they did pass us on the downhill, but it wasn't long after we got our key. For those wondering with that production error, I guess it didn't matter in the end which way they showed it. But yeah, what else? Oh yeah, I loved Amber as a partner. Just clear that. I loved her. And then I just enjoyed my first time on the challenge. I felt like it was an official challenge, but obviously it wasn't. I really did enjoy it, meeting some of the people I'd watched on TV to see how it would actually unravel. And for me, that was the most incredible experience that I'll never forget, and I'm just so grateful that I even had the opportunity to do it once, and let's hope I get to do it again and multiple times and build these relationships with these people and hopefully go far in the next one. And if I don't go far, well, I'll be out there giving it my best, that's for sure.
Listen, you've got the backing of the fans, so we, again, Angel Cake here and a lot of other people saying thank you for hanging out. This convo was awesome. Hope to see you soon on the challenge again. I think everybody wants you to come back. Jacob saying Troy going to come back to be a multi-champ, as he should. So yeah, the support is here definitely from the fans. And I've said this to you before, our door's always open. We'd love to have you on to come and talk about future seasons of the challenge and talk more about the challenge. So as much as we can keep you a part of the conversation, we'll pull you in.
Oh, absolutely. And I'd love to be a part of it, especially coming in for some of your lives coming up for season 39 or even USA 2 or whatever else, because I'll know a few of the people going in. I'll know what sort of happens that you guys might miss behind the scenes and why things might be playing out. So I'd love to come on and chat more, even if I'm not on the season. And if I am in the season, I'd also love to come chat. But yeah, for me, I just love chatting about the challenge probably just as much as all your audience do too. So I love it.
Yeah. Now, fingers crossed. You're one of us.
Oh, they love him.
Love to have you back. 100%. One of us, at the end of the day. Kuna, any final thoughts from your end on the season? What's your final thoughts on this as we close off yet another challenge season? We're getting ready for a new season. It looks like USA 2 might even air before All Stars 4 because they had a little promo on as well for that. So what's your thoughts?
Great season. I loved it. I loved the mix of having the international seasons in there. I actually really enjoyed the thought process behind it. I don't know if the execution was what I would have done. I think it was a perfect setup to have a teams game as opposed to duos. But the fact that it played out the way it did, it gave us the friction and the drama and all that sort of thing based off of that. You got to see countrymen go against countrymen. You got to see vets up against MVPs. We got to see so much this season and introduce a bunch of really strong competitors to you know, we got Kiki, we got Troy, we got Emily, and we got Grant, and we knew from the Australian challenge that they were going to be strong and they're great. I'm just really glad that the rest of the world got to see it. I'm sure the UK and the Argentinians feel similarly, that they got to be represented on a larger scale and show some of the Americans what the rest of the other countries can do. Overall, really, really strong season. I enjoyed it. Production at high level again, and I think much of what makes a good season, and we've said this so many times, Chris, whether it comes to the challenge, whether it comes to Survivor, whatever it is, it's about casting, getting the right people, getting the right competitors, people that provide not only good television, but good performance and really want to go out and get it. And they're not just there for TV. They're not just there for their next, for clout or for social media followers or for whatever it is. But when you get people who want to compete, then guess what? You get really good competition. And that's what we saw this season. And I was a big fan.
And on that as well, I think the actual way it was done was great too, where you had public voting. So even if you did have great competitors on there, they were brought into the drama because they had to be, because you had to say somebody's name publicly in front of everybody. So I think it was a good way to bring strategic drama on the show as well, rather than just personal drama and all that other drama that you get as well. So I thought that was a great choice by casting and production to do it that way as well, just from my point of view, because I felt like, as a person who doesn't normally get involved in drama and tries to stay away from that sort of stuff, I had to be in it because it was a game. I had to play the game. I had to do it the best I had to do, and people wanted to know why I voted the way I voted all the time. So that drags you in it. And hats off to production for making that a thing as well, because I thought that was cool.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with that, but next time production, if you do bring it back, let them draw for spots. Don't leave it up to the contestants to choose when they're going to vote.
I will agree. I'll agree with that. Or what my idea was is you had to write your vote on your thing, and then that was locked in, and then you had to publicly announce it, so that way you couldn't just vote for somebody else just because somebody did. Because I guess that was part of the game, and if you want that, then you can do it your way. Otherwise, you can do it the other way, which is we'll just say what we've written down, regardless of what other people are voting.
Yeah, makes sense. Kahuna and Troy, I think that's a great way to end this live here. This has been a great season. You've been a great live audience here. Apologies that we couldn't read all of the comments tonight. I always try my best to get to as many of them as we can, but definitely all of us have read them as we've had our discussion here. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It's the best way to help this channel grow. We're on our way to 2,000 subscribers, which was a massive goal of mine at the beginning of the year, was to get to 2,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So far, we're doing good. I think we're about 1,810, so we're on our way. If you support the channel, it's the best way to show your support. It really does help with credibility when we reach out to players like Troy and some future players that we would love to get on here to come and talk to us about the show. We really would love to make this a place where challengers feel comfortable to come and have a conversation about their game, about the things that we didn't see, to give everybody a fair opportunity to sort of have their say. Also put the notification bell on so next time we go live. Put a like on this, comment below what your final thoughts are on this season, and we'll be back probably before you know it to talk about another challenge season, because we know All Stars 4's in the can. They've already filmed it. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen on that season, and USA 2 looks like it's going to be dropping pretty soon as well. But for now, we say good night, have a good evening on that side, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Boy.